Hola clase, here is a quick review of commands. You guys already have all this information down. However, if you've lost it, you need to retake these notes. I'm going to go quickly, so feel free to pause and write down as needed. Okay, commands called mandatos in Spanish. They're used to tell someone to do something or not do something. You can have an affirmative command where you tell someone to do something. You can have a negative command where you tell someone to not do something. But of course, that's not how we have them organized in our brain files. I always say you should have two files in your brain, one for affirmative to command and one for all others because of the way that we form them. To form affirmative to commands, so to tell a friend to do something, you take the he, she form of the verb. That's it. So if it's an AR verb, o, as, ah. If it's an ER, IR verb, o, ace, a. And that's how they will end. Of course, there are 8 irregulars, which are as, then, ben, pon, sal, se, ve, and d. I would say that they're pretty easy to decide which commands belong to which verbs, except people forget these last three. Say is the affirmative to command of ser, be something. Be is the affirmative to command of ir, go. And d is the affirmative command of desir. That's all you need to know about affirmative to commands, except, of course, where do pronouns go in relationship to affirmative to commands? It's an affirmative command, so you attach the pronoun at the end, but you're not done yet. You must place an accent on the penultimate syllable, not counting the pronoun. If you remember, penultimate means second to last, and you don't count the pronoun. If you want to see what that looks like, here's a command we have. Actually, let's go down here first. Go away. Habla español, speak Spanish. I would take habla, the affirmative to command, the he, she form, attach lo, because I'm saying it, to replace Spanish. So I count out my syllables, a, blah, last, second to last, accent goes here because I did not count the low. However, something to make a note of, if you have one of those one syllable commands, as la cama, make the bed, and you want to say make it, I'm going to count my syllables, as, not counting the pronoun, la. There won't be an accent on this one because there aren't enough syllables. There's no syllable right here. So if it's a one syllable command, no accent if you're attaching one pronoun. All right, close that brain file. Let's move on to all other commands. So anything not including affirmative to commands, which means negative to, affirmative and negative usted, affirmative and negative ustedes, and nosotros commands would also be involved in this, but we're not covering those yet. How do you form them? 3 steps. Take the present tense yo form, which usually ends in an O. Drop it. Add the opposite ending. And of course, if it's a negative command, you put no in front. What do we mean by opposite ending? It's not truly an opposite ending, but we mean that AR verbs take ER endings. So ace, A, and N, and ER and IR verbs take AR endings. As, a, and on, depending on which command you are giving. Some things you need to be careful of are verbs with stem changes, verbs with irregular yos, especially go verbs, because if you take these verbs that have irregular yo forms and you drop the O, you have to remember that in the cases of all of these, you still need the letter G before forming the command. So if I wanted to make a negative 2 command with these, ago would become no agas, no pongas, no salgas. Of course, if I wanted to do affirmative or negative usted, I would drop the S on these. If I wanted to do affirmative or negative ustedes, I would then, from here, add the letter N. Recoger is just one of the verbs that we talked about a lot in Spanish too when we learned these. The yo form isn't this right here. Recogo, it needs to be changed to a J so it maintains the same sound. And after you drop the O of this, it still has the letter J, so no recojas. I know I'm going quickly, but again, this is just a review. What else do we need to keep in mind? We need to be careful of verbs that don't end in an O. Those verbs spell out dishes. If you look right there at their first letter, I call these your dishes. Here are the verbs I'm speaking about because their yo forms are these. They don't end in the letter O. You can't drop it. You just have to figure out or know, I should say, you just have to know what their command forms are. Here are their negative 2 commands. Of course, you would put no in front. They're different, but they're not that crazy. If you notice, our 2 AR verbs, dar and a star, still end in yes. And our other verbs still end in as. And if you know the negative to command, you can go to affirmative or negative usted, because of course all you have to do is drop the s. However, dar is special in the fact that it takes an accent in this form and not the others. And if you want to go from usted to ustedes, of course all you have to do is add the letter n. That's what I tried to write there, plus an n. And then dar again drops the accent. So these are your dishes. You just have to know them. What else do we need to be aware of? Cargar and zar verbs. You guys know the deal with these. They need a spell change. Tocar, llegar, and empezar are examples. You don't want it to be no toses, no yejes, and you can't ze in Spanish. That's my angry face. That's what it makes me if I see that. So what do? You need to be no toques, no llegues, no empieces. So car verbs change C to QU, gar verbs change G to GU, zar verbs change Z to C, and be careful. If you want full credit in here, you need to make sure that your G's and your Q's have tails so I can tell the difference between them. It can look like a cursive Q, it can look like a regular Q, and here is an example of a G with a tail. Moving on. You guys need to keep them mentally separated. Here is a summary of all the things that you need to know. Affirmative to commands, he, she form. Here are the irregulars. Here's what they end in. All others, present tense yo, drop the yo, opposite ending. Be careful of irregular yos, stem changers, cargar and zar verbs, your dishes. And for pronoun placement, they're attached at the end of affirmative commands, but of course you still need an accent on the penultimate syllable, not counting the pronoun. And for negative commands, they go before the negative command. Let me just show you what that looks like quickly in a more descriptive slide. Let me go back here. Here is a summary of where pronouns go in relationship to commands. We've already looked at the affirmative side. Here's the negative side. The pronoun goes after no and before the command. So you go no, pronoun, negative command. So if I wanted to tell you don't speak English, no hables inglés, I would replace inglés with the direct object pronoun lo, and it would go between no and the command. No space lo space hables, no lo hables. And just one more time at the review of this, here is a quick summary of what you need to know about commands and what you should have in your brain files. Thanks for reviewing commands with me, and if you have questions, bring them to class.